Hey everyone, wanted to answer the question, why does Bitcoin go down sometimes when other assets like the stock market or the Japanese stock market go down, even when it has nothing to do with Bitcoin? In fact, sometimes Bitcoin goes down even in spite of positive news that you would think would make Bitcoin go up. Well, there's two reasons: irrationality and necessity. So let me start with irrationality. Actually, let me start with necessity. So lots of people, very few people have all of their assets in one asset, or all of their, net worth in one asset, whether they're a business or an individual. So the average person has, who's high net worth has some real estate, some stocks, some bonds, some cash, some this, some that, a bunch of different stuff. So when the broad stock market starts crashing, it means their other assets are going down. And if they've used leverage or if they've used debt, they can get something called a margin call, which means they have to put additional assets in. Otherwise, they'll get liquidated on some asset they own. Or if they were exposed to international, like had borrowed money in Japan, then at 0% interest, suddenly Japan's money has an interest rate, and they have to sell some Bitcoin to make up for interest payments and things like that. So the first reason is people end up, when the rest of their world starts burning down, they end up selling Bitcoin to try to save the rest of their world, even when Bitcoin is the safe haven. Bitcoin is the certainty. Bitcoin is the one thing where there's only 21 million. And so the logical thing to do if everything else is on fire is buy more Bitcoin. But out of necessity, if a business is failing and needs cash to stay afloat, someone's struggling to make payroll, they end up selling Bitcoin by necessity, not because it makes any financial sense, and not because they want to, and not because they even think it makes any sense at all. It's just the only thing they can do to keep whatever it is afloat. So the first reason people sell Bitcoin, give me 1 second. The first reason people sell Bitcoin when the broader stock market is tanking is because all of their other assets, or some of their other assets, are underwater, and they're trying to keep from losing those assets. So for example, let's play this out. Somebody has mortgage interest payments and they own some Bitcoin. Well, if things get bad enough, they are going to sell some Bitcoin to make their mortgage payment. Now, long term, of course, financially, it makes way more sense to own Bitcoin than it does to own a piece of residential real estate. But if you happen to be living in that residential real estate and you risk getting kicked out of that residential real estate, well, then you're going to sell your Bitcoin to keep a roof over your head. So that just happens. So people sell Bitcoin out of necessity, even when it doesn't make economic sense. All right, so let's talk about irrationality. So when I first got into politics, one of my political advisors, when I would ask him why people did certain things, he would say, Joel, people are just irrational. Especially in politics, people are irrational. And I would say, yeah, I hear you and I get that. I know it's irrational, but help me understand why in this circumstance, the people are behaving the way they are. And he's like, Joel, you're not hearing me. They are not behaving rationally. I'm like, okay, yeah, I hear you, but still help me understand what's going down. And his answer was, Joel, you're not hearing me. They are acting irrationally. Their behavior makes absolutely no sense. So the same thing is true in Bitcoin. This happens when, stuff's on fire. The Nikkei average is dropping 6% or 7% overnight in Japan. The broad stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, is down 1,000 points today. The Japanese market is down the highest drop since the Black Monday of 1987. I mean, that's how bad the stock market was today. Is things, some aspects of the global market have had their worst day since 1987. So when everything starts, lighting on fire and people's stocks and bonds and everything start dropping, a surprising number of people sell their Bitcoin, which makes absolutely no sense. And I've had these conversations with people who have done exactly that, and they're like, they just sold some Bitcoin. And I'm like, well, why'd you sell your Bitcoin? Well, I'll make up a conversation to apply to the current scenario, but frankly, the exact same conversation I've had it enough with enough people in different scenarios that it's the same whether you're talking about a drop in the Nikkei average or whatever it is that's sort of spooked the markets. So this is a hypothetical conversation of what people are thinking right now and the conversation you would have with them. But I've had so many similar conversations based on past events that I can tell you this is exactly the way people are thinking in the conversation you would have, which is, hey, what just happened? Well, they sold their Bitcoin. Well, why'd you sell your Bitcoin? Well, the Japanese stock market dropped by 7%, and I thought, things are looking bad out there. Of course, my logical response is, but wait, what does a 7% drop in the Japanese stock market have to do with you and your Bitcoin? Their answer, well, a lot of uncertainty out there. My response, but wait, if you're afraid of uncertainty, why would you have sold Bitcoin to get US dollars when there's a huge amount of uncertainty with the value of the US dollar in the long term, and there's absolute certainty that there's only 21 million Bitcoin? Well, again, the response is, I don't know, Joel, it's just, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I just feel like everything's on fire right now. It's like, but wait, if everything's on fire, why would you not be buying more Bitcoin? And no matter how many follow-up questions I ask, someone who sold their Bitcoin out of panic never has a good answer. It keeps coming back to, well, global uncertainty and unrest in the Middle East, and what if there's a world war? And they use a bunch of examples that I'm like, but wait, in each of those scenarios, the right thing to do is buy more Bitcoin. And they don't have a rational reason why that's not the case. And they don't have a rational reason that selling Bitcoin made any sense. It's just, they got scared and that's what they did, which is just happens. Now, some people obviously sell Bitcoin because they decided they wanted to own a different asset, or there's a lot of reasons, completely legitimate and completely rational reasons, that people would sell or buy any asset. So I'm certainly not talking about people who consciously and thoughtfully buy or sell any asset. Obviously, it's their own money. They can do absolutely whatever they want with it. And if that's what they want to do with it, great, good for them. All for it. But a shocking number of people in the world buy and sell things. They buy them based on fear of missing out, FOMO, and they sell them based on panic, and it's just completely irrational, and it makes no sense. And the best way to make money is to be rational when other people are being irrational, meaning you're buying when they're panic selling. That is just a great way to acquire any asset, is when you are buying because you've got a level head, when people are selling because they are completely freaked out. So a lot of Bitcoin got dumped over the last 24 hours and even the last week because people were panic selling. And if you went to them and had and attempted to have a rational conversation about why they sold their Bitcoin, you would eventually give up and determine, just like my political advisor advised me, that sometimes people are just irrational, and there's just, no matter how long a conversation you're going to have with them, they will not come up with a rational reason they sold their Bitcoin. They just sold it, and it makes no sense, and they just did it, and it just is what it is. So a lot of that's been happening, which creates a great buying opportunity for rational, level-headed people that are not panicking. And you can pick up Bitcoin on sale for right now $54,700, and it was even cheaper than that earlier today. So now's a great time to buy Bitcoin, and as long as you've got a long time horizon, I believe it will outperform every other asset. So good luck in your Bitcoin journey. I'm always here for anything you need. Thanks.